Hey, what's going on, fight fans? Hey, this is Coach D, the Wild Man, coming at you again with another episode of Coach D Media. Now, you know I do a Coach D Media. I talk about all things combat sports related, from the highs to the lows. All right, let's go ahead and get back into it. I have a question for the fans out there. And the question is Dana White good or bad for combat sports? Now, when we look at the UFC, we look at MMA, we're huge fans of the UFC. All the stuff that Dana White has done from when it first started up to now, right? But then, now that we've come full circle and we've seen all the stuff that's happened with Dana White and the UFC, who he's partnered up with, and where things are going, is he still good for combat sports? So let me break it down. So, when the UFC first started, when they bought it, and it became just the UFC and MMA. So the UFC put on MMA events. That's primarily what it was, right? Then they added on, the UFC Tough, the Ultimate Fighter, right? Then from there, started talking about maybe doing boxing. Then from there, Power Slap. Then from there, now UFC, BJJ. He started adding more and more products under the UFC banner. Okay. And now that they're partnered with TKO, right? They're a huge conglomerate when it comes to combat sports. And they're buying up everything. When they first started, they bought up WEC, they bought up Pride, Strike Force. They started buying up everybody, making these ironclad contracts that could nobody get out of, that ended up being a class action suit to where they got sued for monopoly. So you see how it went from something that we can all respect and go, we like it, to this iconic monster that is gobbling up everything. You know what I'm saying? So where does it say for the rest of the sport? If they're continuing to buy up everything, they mean they control everything. What kind of combat sports will we see down the line if everybody's under the UFC banner? Okay. MMA, you see where it went. You had all the drama with the Conor McGregors of the world, the John Jones of the world, Sean Strickland's, you know what I'm saying, the Sean O'Malley's that choose, being famous over being a great fighter. We've seen all this stuff, people getting in trouble, now they're getting sued. I mean, it just kept adding up and adding up and adding up. So what could we make of it? But it was just MMA. It wasn't boxing. Boxing had their own problems. It wasn't BJJ that was finally coming around to being a sport that people get paid from, right? It was always competition between like one championship, PFL, Bellator, right? But now, right, after Francis Ngannou was able to break free from the UFC, now they're saying he wasn't good for the sport. Don Davis for the PFL is hitting him hard. Dana White's hitting him hard, even though Francis Ngannou was just wanting to be in combat sports. He wanted to be a boxer. He wanted to get in the UFC, right? He wanted to compete and make money. He wasn't trying to do all the political hoops that everybody has to go through to deal with Dana White. He didn't want to go through that, right? Now Don Davis is getting on him about not showing up, right? He's an ambassador for the sport, right? He's not going to be manipulated and become somebody's puppet. He just ain't going to do it, right? So we got that look, right? TKO is doing all kind of business with Zupa Boxing now. All right, Zupa Boxing is potentially doing deals with Saudi Arabia money. All this stuff is happening. Then I saw the podcast, the Mighty Podcast with Demetrius Johnson, talking with Mikey Musiasi, however you say his name is, and Craig Jones about BJJ. And is it good for the UFC to start buying up talent, making it harder and harder to get matchups when it comes to BJJ now? You see, Dana White is just taking everything off the board, so they control everything when it comes to combat sports. Is that good for the sport? To where you got contract, if you're an up and coming fighter, you try to make a name for yourself, and the UFC and Dana White locks you down on the contract, you can't do anything else. He could put you on the shelf, or he could put you in the match. Right, but I think now he has to give you so many matches within a year's time, or he may be in breach of contract or something like that. but he can still give you bullshit, right? To where you ain't getting matches or you ain't making no money, right? So you see, it for somebody to have that much control over any combat sport, is that good? Because if you catch an attitude, you ain't getting nothing. Even freaking Rampage Jackson said, when Dana White likes you, he'll look out for you. When he got in trouble, Dana White was there to back him up. But then when Rampage Jackson wanted to do something else that Dana White didn't want him to do, he didn't get nothing. He didn't get some money that he was owed, that he was due to get based off pay-per-view buys. So Dana White can either be your friend or he can shit on you, right? And now that he is so close with the president of the United States, right? He's he's coming to all these UFC shows, right? Getting ready to possibly have an event on the White House lawn. Who does that? Why are you turning the White House into a promotion? Where are we going with all this? That having a UFC event on the White House lawn is something that we should be doing. Makes no sense. Am I gonna tune in? Probably, because I'm a fight fan. But that don't make no sense. And here's something that's really got me concerned is that Dana White is making the rounds like a politician. He's been on so many podcast platforms that I wouldn't think he would be, right? He was on Shay Shay with Sharp, right? Didn't think he would be there. That's primarily for black space, but he was there, right? I saw him with Jay Cutler on a bodybuilding podcast. I saw him on political podcasts. He's been making the rounds across so many different styles of podcasts. Okay, why? Why is he making these rounds across so many different graphics and different styles of athletes and so on and so forth? Why? Why this much attention? Because normally Dana White sticks to the podcast that he puts on. He don't show up on somebody else's podcast unless they got some stuff worked out. But I'm seeing him everywhere. So that concerns me, where you're making these type of rounds like a politician and you're buying up all these promotions. I mean, and you're either building or buying up, right? So think about it. MMA, boxing, BJJ, top three, right? Making his own power slap, right? Already got tough. Look how much he controls now that most of the athletes that compete go through. He's monopolizing all over again. Is that a good thing? Because if he gets you on a contract and he don't want you to do nothing, you're not doing nothing. If you get free, right, and he don't want you to do anything, you're not doing it. All these fighters that are out in the world that's retired are still under contract. They can't do what they want to do. They still got to go through the UFC. If you want to come out of retirement, you still have to compete in the UFC or get approval from Dana White to do anything else. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a good thing at all. So is Dana White good for the sport? That's a question that is starting to look like a no, because he's trying to control so much. There's no freedom for fighters no more. If you want to make it into the big time, you got to go through Dana. He might as well be the mafia. Remember back in the day when the mafia was over boxing? If you got into boxing under the mafia, they're like, look, either fight, drop, take a fight, lose, whatever, or we'll bust your kneecaps. You know what I'm saying? Take a dive so we can make some money. All that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's what Dana White is doing, but if he can control where and who you fight, that kind of like that. So it's getting kind of interesting, fight fans. I'm not sure where this is going to end up. It's starting not to look good when Dana White is trying to control so much under the UFC and TKO banner. Right? He's becoming a don. Right? He's taking out players. Look at Vince. Vince out the picture. Right? He's partnering up with the president. Right? He got real power now. And he's backed by major money. He got real power. And he's wielding it. He's, like I said, if he don't want you to have it, he gonna buy it. Right? You know that old saying, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, Dana coming to take it. That's where we at right now. So we'll see. All right, that's all I got, man, because it's starting to get kind of crazy. So it is what it is. This is Coach D doing what I'm doing, calling it like I see it, talking my share of shit. To hear from me again, peace out.